out at like a mixer, right? Where you could meet other single people in the area. And she meets this guy, and he's kind of cute, and they're flirting and they're having a good time, and they're actually sharing a drink at a table. And she excuses herself to get up and go to the restroom.
Yeah.
And when she comes back, he's placed his number right there in front of her.
Oh, in the seat where she was sitting, in front of the seat.
Yeah, on the table where her drink was. And
she was our client.
She was our client. So because she'd been coaching with us, she actually picked up the piece of paper, turned it over, wrote her number down on it, gave it back to him, and said, actually, I'd prefer it if you called me.
And if I remember correctly, he starts objecting. He's like, no. Here's my number. And I don't know when you're available. Whatever.
Right.
And she just wouldn't relent. She's like, no, here's my number. And here's the thing. We're talking today about if opposites attract. And we're going to talk a lot about masculine and feminine energy, which has nothing to do with your gender. Masculine and feminine energy exists in both men and women and those who are gender fluid.
Exactly.
So masculine energy and feminine energy is really important through the dating process, because most people, when you screw this up right off the bat, that's where they're like, uh-oh, especially the ladies. You guys all start freaking out about where's this going? Mm-hmm. And it's like you've been paddling the boat.
Right.
And suddenly you're like, well, I'm tired of paddling the boat. Why doesn't he paddle the boat now? And so they just stop. We stop paddling. They stop paddling.
And he's like, he doesn't seem to care that the boat's not going anywhere.
And the boat's just sitting there.
Interesting.
And the thing is, ladies, if you want a guy who's going to move the relationship forward and step up for you, then you got to leave the space for him to step up in the very beginning.
So it's interesting because when we talk about this, people think suddenly we're trying to take everybody back in time to 1950. Right.
Which we're not.
Where, men were men and, women were pretty, and that's really all there was to it. Right. Exactly. Right. And so we're not saying that at all. What we're saying is if you want a certain dynamic in a relationship, you have to understand masculine energy and feminine energy and the differences and how they operate. We like to think in this gender fluid world that it doesn't really matter. Right, that women can act like men and men can act like women,
and that's true in the workplace.
It's actually true.
Job, or
it's true in the world,
of our life, in every part of our life, right. Except opposites do attract. Mm-hmm. And the reason why we're talking about the energetics of how you're showing up is more important than how you dress or what you do. There isn't an energetic in your behavior. In other words, working on the car is not masculine. Nope.
No, doing the dishes or cooking the food is not feminine.
Yeah, or doing the laundry isn't feminine.
Raising the children, not feminine.
Yeah, that is like the tasks that you do are, who cares, right? I mean,
they're not gender specific.
They're not gender specific. They have nothing to do with nothing. But the problem that we see all the time about wanting to quote, like, people think they want to bend the rules, and what they're really doing is messing themselves up, because if you have to know yourself to know what kind of relationship you want. I mean, who here thinks I'm some kind of wallflower? Anybody? Type it in the chat. I want to talk with you. I mean, I'm not good at, keeping my mouth shut. I'm not a wallflower. No. I worked in a very competitive industry before I met you and all of that, and had a very successful career with a lot of men making action movies. And so I just want to say that the way I was confused. And so I think we want to go over this from my perspective. Like, I remember taking my first dating class. It was a teleclass. It was taught by these two therapists. And they, I was confused. Like, they kept talking about how men are the hunters. And I was like, does that make me prey? And so I was like, okay, I'm a bunny. I'll be a bunny rabbit. I was like, and I didn't know how to be a bunny rabbit. Oh, thanks. You gave me bunny ears.
Yeah.
You're so cute. So the thing about, I didn't know how to be a bunny. But the thing is I like a manly man. I mean, I got a manly man. I actually wanted a manly man who was spiritual. I didn't like any of the guys I met in yoga class or at meditation, and which is making me laugh because what do I do with my husband? I go to yoga class and we go to meditation. Yeah. But I never was looking for my guy at those places. Mm-hmm. And yet I got exactly this weird dichotomy of this spiritual man who also was obsessed with football. Well, 365 days a year.
Yeah, that's a whole other conversation.
So, but let me go back to the hunter and the rabbit, because I think what people don't understand is, 3 to 6 months in, I mean, we talk to women all day long who are telling us, I put in all this effort and I did all this stuff, and 3 to 6 months in, it just didn't go anywhere. And what we're trying to get you to understand is, if you're showing up in your masculine and you're asking him out and you're splitting the check, or you're offering to get it, or it's he gets it one time and then you get it the next time, and it's the reciprocal thing, it's not really sexy, and it doesn't allow the polarity of magnetics to create an attraction. And I'm talking about the polarity of magnetics because look at magnets.
Okay, before we go too far into that,
yes,
I want to go back. I want to rewind a little bit.
You were talking about sound if you're going to go back.
You were talking about yoga and meditation and meeting guys there, and
not looking for guys.
Not looking for guys there, right? Yeah. And so we talk to a lot of women who, are looking for guys doing the things they're doing.
Oh, right.
Right. They're going to personal growth workshops, or they're going to yoga or meditation, and they're looking for guys who share their interests. And I think this is a mistake, once again, about this idea of opposites attract and energetics and all of that, is we think that we have to have the same likes and dislikes. We think we have to have the same hobbies. We have to have the same interests in order for it to be a healthy, vibrant relationship.
And you don't.
And we would say that those things, it's not that they don't matter at all. I mean, if one of you wants to spend, 250 days a year at Disneyland, and the other one's like, no, I'd rather be in the woods chopping down trees and building my own home, I think there's a disconnect there.
Yeah,
right.
That's an extreme.
That's an extreme example. But for the most part, if you're a little bit country and she's a little bit rock and roll, just to age us a little bit, right? Then that's not a problem. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if one of you likes yoga and the other one wants to go to, watch football every Sunday. It doesn't matter. Those things are unimportant. Your likes and dislikes are not what are going to drive your relationship and make it spicy and make it happening and make it, exciting and fun.
Yeah. I mean, yes, you want to enjoy some of the same things. It helps if you do, so you can go out and do things together, maybe enjoy a concert or go to a play or whatever those things are, those activities out in the world, or ride motorcycles together.
Or at least be willing to do things together, right? I've been to more musicals since I've been with Orna than I probably had been in the previous
That's because
40 years of my life.
I roped you in early.
You did.
I know. I won 2 tickets to Wicked, and we were fresh. I said, "You want to go to Wicked?" He was like, "With you, I'll go anywhere."
With you?
With stars in his eyes.
The pretty girl with curly hair? Yes.
With stars in his eyes, he said, "I will go anywhere you ask me to go." And I roped him into the musical, and I roped you into the amusement park.
Yeah.
I love roller coasters. So the thing is, if you like the same activities, I roped you into football. Yeah. I married it. I say all the time, I married into it. But most of the guys I dated, like, were
I know.
It's not like you had to explain the game to me. I knew the game. So when we're talking about energetics, we're talking about who's driving the relationship forward, who's leading. So we want to talk about masculine and feminine energy today, and about how opposites attract, because masculine and feminine energy are the energetics within a human being. And women can be leading with their masculine, just as women can be responding and sort of leaning back in their feminine, and vice versa. Men can very much lean back in their feminine. And if you are a woman who's taking care of everything and a man really likes you and finds you hot, he will lean back into his feminine. But then you can't expect that guy to just, 3 to 6 months in, start driving the relationship and stepping up for you, right? Because he won't know that you've switched gears, and it'll just like, because you'll have that conversation like, where's this going? And he'll be like, I don't know, it's going fine for me.
It's going great. Where does it need to go anywhere? What are you talking about? What?
That would be confusing to that guy. And I love this example. Your friend who owns her own business, Matthew is his friend, really powerhouse lady. I love her.
Yeah, successful in a lot of areas of her life.
And she used to date a lot of men more in their feminine.
A lot of musicians, a lot of artists.
Yeah,
right?
like
creative men.
In touch with their creative side, and she was the relationships they wouldn't last. And then suddenly she met this guy who was a super high-powered CEO and had his own business, and suddenly like whoosh. And suddenly she was like, oh, and she felt comfortable enough to lean back and let him lead. And oh my gosh, they've been married for 2 decades, I think.
Yeah, longer than us.
Yeah. So what we're trying to talk about today, that opposites attract through this masculine and feminine energetics, that has nothing to do with your gender. It has to do with how you're showing up. And
before we get into that, can we intro us? I keep
before.
Before?
What? We can't do anything before because we're doing it now. It's like we can't. Do you have a time machine?
I'm sorry. I interrupted you again. My bad.
Okay, go ahead.
I am Matthew Walters.
And I think I'm Orna Walters.
This is Love Intervention. We are here to intervene in your love life to get you on the path to long-lasting, soul-satisfying love.
Yeah, and I know I'm Orna Walters. I think you know I'm kidding. So as Orna Walters, I want to share with you this idea because I think when we talk about ballroom dancing is a really lovely way to talk about masculine and feminine energy, because the dance of relationship is that these two very different people come together and both people have to get their needs met. And if you're different and you're opposite, that can feel like a tension or like a riddle that you don't know how to solve. And this is where so many people go south. They go south because this riddle is like, wow, I started off with this person and everything was great. And I thought they were just like me. And then 3 to 6 months in, the chemical high wears off of that romance phase. Ding, ding, ding. I wish we had some sound effects.
Yeah, we need some fancy little buttons.
Yes, yeah, we do. And so then, you're waiting. You're like, well, suddenly all the shine wore off on the dating process. And you're like, who is this person? And you suddenly find yourself in this tug of war of like, oh, if you just did things if we did things my way, things would work out so much better. I know how to do this. And there's this tug of war thing that we know of as the power struggle stage.
Right.
And so we want you to understand, like, no couple skips that power struggle stage. And so you want to set things up energetically at the start to begin with. So if you look at same-sex relationships, if you look at homosexual relationships, you will see it's really obvious most of the time which one of those two people is more in their feminine or more in their masculine. And it has nothing to do with their actual gender. And so, again, we want you to understand this from an energetics point of view about how you're showing up. Because two men together, what do?
Well, they compete. Two men is a competitive energy. Anytime I've ever been in a men's group, we always talk about the idea of steel sharpens steel. We are here to hold each other accountable. We're here to challenge each other, right? And that's two masculine energies together. And it's really important to understand that dynamic, because a competitive masculine energy does not want to compete with the woman he's in a relationship with.
That's true. They do not want to compete with you.
Right.
So when you show up and I'm not asking anybody to be some damsel in distress. Like, I didn't know how to do that. That's why I was like, wait, I'm a bunny. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to be a damsel in distress. Like,
I'm a little bunny.
Yeah, I'm not asking to play any kind of game or anything like that. But I will tell you that I never had to ask Matthew. Not once did I have to ask him, where is this going? I never, ever, ever had to ask that, because Matthew showed me every step of the way in the early part of our dating, all the way through to getting engaged and being married, that he showed me where it was going. He showed me all along that he wanted to be in a relationship with me. And I think that a lot of you are like, well, that's great, but I like Bob, and Bob isn't really paying me much attention. And I'm like, well, maybe Bob either A, is in a relationship, or maybe Bob isn't interested in you for a relationship, or you're not giving Bob the signals that the water's warm.
Well, before we go there, because we talk about two masculine energies together. Yeah. So what are two feminine energies together?
Well, two feminine energies together are reciprocal. So the way all the girlfriends get together and they compliment one another. You see somebody and you hug, oh, you look so pretty. Oh gosh, I love your shoes. Or, oh, I like your hat. I love your dress. Or Matthew jokes about the thank you cards for the thank you cards, right? For the thank you card and the thank you email. Oh, I got you thank you card. Thank you, right? There's this exchange. And I think the biggest mistake women make in this sort of idea is they treat a man like their girlfriend. And so they do a bunch of stuff thinking he'll reciprocate.
Right.
And
So-
why won't he?
Because
Is he dim?
no, he's not dim. Not at all.
Is
And
he
he's not.
selfish?
He's definitely not selfish. Well,
No.
he might be, but that's not the reason.
Yeah.
So John Gray talks about it in this way, and he kind of jokingly says that men have an efficiency gene. And so you mentioned earlier that men are the hunters, right? So what does hunting require? Hunting requires that you have single pointed focus, right? You take all of your sensory and your mental and physical energy and you put it towards one task, one goal. And then when that task or goal is completed, you rest and you recharge,
yeah.
you refuel. And so that sense of efficiency says, if I see that this person I'm with is taking care of things, then me being efficient, I'm going to put my energy elsewhere.
Yeah.
I'm not going to put it towards those things because those things are taken care of.
So I'll give you a concrete example. We got married in 2009, and Matthew's parents, as the parents of the groom, were paying for our rehearsal dinner for the people out of town and in the wedding. And we had a very small wedding, so it wasn't a huge deal. But, there were things that needed to get done with the rehearsal dinner. And I had the rehearsal dinner on my to-do list. And a few weeks before, I think it was like three and a half weeks before the wedding or so. And we were out with Matthew's friend, John, who was the best man at our wedding, and his lovely wife, Kathleen. And the guys were like walking up ahead or whatever. And Kathleen and I were window shopping wherever we were. And she says to me, "How's the wedding stuff going?" And I was like, "Oh, I was so mad at him today. I found out like he hadn't really done anything on his list." And Kathleen's like, "What? The wedding's like right around the corner." And I'm like, "I know." I was like, "Have you gotten this done? Have you gotten the nope. So I literally tore the rehearsal dinner stuff out of my to-do list and I literally handed it to Matthew and I said, "Oh, now that rehearsal dinner your parents are paying for, here, you do all this stuff. You confirm the menu with the venue and you confirm the, the menu and the attendance and blah, 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 and make sure everybody knows where to go. And you just deal with it. You get your mom's credit card, however, whatever, I'm done here." And Kathleen starts cracking up laughing. And she says, "Oh my gosh, you're hilarious. He hadn't done anything, so you gave him more to do." And I said, "Well, that's how you get a man to do things."
It's really,
I hope you men are laughing right now when you're hearing me because I'm right.
It's a really great strategy because suddenly I had enough things on my list.
There's
I had a
urgency.
sense of urgency about getting it done. So I got really motivated right away and got all that stuff done. I just want to acknowledge Tina says hello, or Matthew. Hi, Tina.
Hi,
Anybody
Tina.
else who is here wants to type into the chat, say hello. It's also, you could type in questions or anything else you have for us there.
Yeah.
We'll get to those later.
Yeah, so I'm going to say hello, everybody. I am Orna Walters.
And I'm Matthew Walters.
For those of you who are coming in a little late,
Yes.
This is Love Intervention. What do we do here?
We are here to get you off the path of frustration and heartbreak and on the path to long-lasting, soul-satisfying love. That's why we're here to intervene in your love life and love intervention.
Yes, so essentially this is an AMA and ask me anything, ask us anything. So type your questions in the chat. We will get to your questions. And we're sort of greasing the wheel with today's topic. Do opposites really attract? So yes, they do. Think of two magnets. There's a polarity. There's that magnetic draw together. And if you put the same sides, they repel. But you put the opposites, they're magnetic. And that's what we want for you. Because when you're showing up, just like he's showing up, it's awkward for him because he doesn't want to compete. And when you're showing up like you're treating him like your girlfriend, he's not going to respond in the way you think he will because they don't necessarily, and I know we're painting in large brushstrokes here today, right? With this gender fluidity idea, because we're talking about energetics. So it doesn't mean he will never reciprocate, but he likely won't. I mean, when Matthew and I, after we got engaged, we moved in together. And I hadn't lived with somebody for quite some time. And I like getting little notes. And so I started leaving him little notes where he'd find them, little love notes in our place. And at some point I realized he's not writing me any of these little notes. I mean, I think he liked them. He kept them all.
I like the notes. They were sweet.
Yeah. But it would never, it didn't dawn on you to write me a note. I was writing you notes.
No, it didn't occur to me at all.
No, not at all. And so I made a request and I said, "Hey, do you like those notes that I leave for you?"
Oh, yeah.
They're fun to find.
They're
like
really sweet.
In your sock drawer and on your pillow. Yeah. And I said, I'd like to get some of those.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I can do that.
So, I got a few. Oh, well. Look, the deal is that your needs are not negotiable, but your wants are negotiable. So I was like, I'd like to get some of these notes. That wasn't a need. I didn't need you to write me notes.
But hey, you do get like 3 or 4 cards every major holiday. So
I think I got 2 on Valentine's Day.
Yes, you got 2 on Valentine's Day.
That was a 3 or 4.
Plus you got 1 from the cats.
I know how to count.
You got 1 from the cats too.
So. The cats, does that come from you?
Well, they need me to purchase it for them.
Oh, they do.
Because they don't have thumbs, nor do they have credit cards.
They don't have
bank
cash.
accounts. They don't even have bank accounts.
Cats with no cash. Who are we raising in this world?
So it's interesting. I'm going to go slightly different direction. It's interesting, this idea, right, of energetics and all that. And we hear a lot of successful women, a lot of women who are really, in their masculine in their career, and they get stuff done, right? Like Orna, right? They're women who get stuff done. And they say to us, well, I just think men are intimidated by me. And
I thought that too.
It's not about intimidation. I mean, sure, there are some men who may be intimidated by you because you're more successful than them, but
that's
you don't
not your guy anyway.
You don't want to date that guy anyway, right? He's insecure. But what's going on is that a man who likes you but sees how you're showing up like another man because you're like, look how great I am. Look how successful I am. I'm really great and successful, right? He's like, well, that's competitive energy. I'm not attracted to that.
It's not a turn on.
And it doesn't mean that you have to suddenly not be successful or that you have to not talk about how successful you are. It's more about how you're showing up. That's different, giving him an opportunity to step into this space. So here's something really important to understand about masculine energy. Masculine energy, 1, needs to know how to please you, how to make you happy, how to provide for you is how it's traditionally said.
If I had a bell, I'd be ringing it right now.
And providing for you isn't about buying your food and paying the rent or providing a house for you to move into. Well, that could be
it. Be part of it.
That could be part of it, but that's not what providing is about. Providing is about, I am here to give you this thing that makes your life better. I'm the provider of that thing that makes your life better. And the way he knows that he's the provider of that thing that makes your life better, is that you tell him. And you do it this way. You acknowledge and you appreciate what he does for you.
Yes.
We had a friend, and he came out to visit. He had just gone through not a very good divorce.
I mean, most divorces are ugly. This was pretty ugly.
This was like medium ugly. It wasn't the ugliest, but it
wasn't the ugliest, but medium.
It had its moments,
yeah.
right? And he shared with us this one particular story, and it's really indicates why this marriage was out of balance and wasn't going to work. He was out doing the yard work, and his wife was yelling out the window, criticizing the order with which he was doing the yard work because she thought he should do it in a different order and therefore it would be better.
Yeah. Instead of just being grateful and acknowledge and appreciate that he was actually doing the yard work. And so he got to a place where he's like, I couldn't do anything right. I couldn't do anything.
Please her.
Couldn't please her, couldn't make her life better because anything he did, he was either doing it wrong or he shouldn't have been doing it or he's doing it in the wrong order. I mean,
or he should have done it before, but now doing it
didn't somehow it expired.
Right.
Like, well, it's whatever. You're raking the leaves now. You should have done them last week.
Right.
I don't know how that works, but that's like, there's so much we have here that we want to unpack and we really want your questions. So, please type your questions in the chat and we will be answering them. We also, if you're listening to us if you're watching us on Facebook, you can put your questions there. Our team will port them over here. Same for YouTube. And if you're on YouTube, click the bell, subscribe. And if you have a comment or you can give us a thumbs up, or if you really don't like us, a thumbs down. Although please don't do that. I don't know why I said that. Facebook, same thing. Thumbs up, a love, a question, whatever. React, respond. Let us know you're out there. Hello. We're going to be answering your questions, but we'd really like to answer your questions about this particular thing about opposites attract. And we want you to understand that this is built into species survival.
Ooh, I like this part.
So if any of you work in the business world, or you in any way that you're in business, or let's say you run a business, or you're part of a team in business, you will notice that what you want in business is diversity. You don't want people thinking all the same, because a business won't last if everybody's thinking the same way, because challenges will come and you won't know how to overcome that challenge if everybody just has monolithic thinking, right? Just one bucket. So nature does the same thing. Nature says, oh, if I bring two people together that are not alike but are opposite, and they come together and they procreate and they make babies, the survival of the family unit is more likely if they're not alike than if they're alike.
Right.
Because if they think the same and they do everything the same, a plague can come and whoosh, wipe out that family, right? So for species survival, we're drawn to somebody who's not like us. But we are drugged in the beginning. There is a chemical high of that, a romance phase. And that chemical high puts you in a state of delusion where we say love is blind. And we suddenly think, oh, this person's just like me.
Right.
And after a while, those chemicals wear off and you realize, oh, I'm in a relationship with somebody who's not like me at all.
They're not like me at all. They react differently. They don't get upset the way I get upset. They don't do the dishes the way I do the dishes.
They don't load the dishwasher the way they don't do the yard work in the order I would do it.
So many things. If they just did it like I did it, then things would be so much easier between us.
Yeah. And that's a tough one, because what we want to say to you is your romance phase, that first stage of relationship, that drug-induced romance high, that needs to be lengthy. If you have a truncated, meaning a shortened romance phase, something's off. It should be easy in the beginning. And that doesn't mean you don't have any conflicts or disagreements. You don't have little things to work out. But when you hit that second stage, that stage 2, that power struggle stage after the chemical high is worn off, you need that gas in your tank to make it through that stage 2. And the gas, the fuel, happens in that first stage. So when I think back to our romance phase, when we started dating in 2007, oh my gosh, 2023. Been together a long time.
Yeah.
And I think back to 2007, I have a super fond, yummy, delicious, yummy memories of us and dating. And they were super magical and sweet, and oh my gosh, lots of good stuff there.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, it seems a little shallow compared to the love that we have now, all these years later. It's just different.
It's different. It's not the same.
There's that really, it's on the week of Valentine's Day. Oh gosh, John Legend, I named food in my head for a second. John Legend came out with a new album the week of Valentine's Day, and he had a lot of other songs that he put out, but they were just him and the piano. So instead of a big, an orchestra and all this, they're just very sort of stripped down, and just John Legend and his great voice and the piano. And there's this beautiful song that we played all week over and over on Valentine's Day, which is I Don't Love You Like I Used to, right? I don't love you like I used to. I don't love you just the same. And what he's saying is I'd be foolish to think that we are the same people we were when we fell in love, and that our love is so much, it has grown so much, and we've grown as people, and there's so much more love between us that it's not possible for me to love you like I used to, because I didn't used to know you as well as I know you now. And that's the kind of love we're talking about, where you grow together instead of apart. And in order to have that, in order to do it right, and in order to get it right, you have to set up the energetics in the beginning in the right way. And that's what we're talking about today, because opposites attract, meaning if you really want a lengthy, long-lasting, soul-satisfying, loving partnership that stands the test of time, you've got to know, A, that you're going to hit that power struggle stage. Don't get delusional thinking, here's that person I'll never have a conflict with. That's a fantasy, bunch of crap. So you got to learn the skills. You got to have the skills. So what are your questions for us today? Because if you don't have any, we're going to move along and have an early dinner, maybe watch an extra episode of Severance, which is on Apple TV. I don't know why I just gave them a plug, but I just did. We should get some money from them.
Exactly. Get some sponsorship.
But I just want to say, look, the idea that you're going to meet somebody where everything just works out and there's never a bump in the road is a mistake. And so the only thing I want to add is opposites do attract. And if you're a woman who dates men and you're just showing up and doing all the doing, there's no space for that man to blossom and really step up in the beginning to claim you and to earn your love and your trust and your heart. And so you want to give that space. The guy who isn't asking you out for a reason. And we're not asking you to pretend it's 1952 or something. We're asking you that if you want the yearning for somebody that doesn't want you, then you kind of have an addiction problem to the yearning for something you can't have.
Mm-hmm.
And I speak from experience because I wanted what I couldn't have for decades in my adult life. And I got to tell you, having what you really want is so much better and is so much more fulfilling. So you can get out of that habit of yearning because it's an addiction, that addiction. Anybody here? Anybody else? I mean, I'll admit it. I definitely was addicted and pining for what I could not have. I spent a lot of years doing that. Anybody else willing to admit it?
Yeah, I'll say this. If anybody's having an issue with the chat, because we did have somebody last Love Intervention who couldn't type into the chat.
Send us an email. We want to know.
Send us an email, but also head over to either YouTube or Facebook and type something in there. And then our team will bring it over here.
If you're trying to chat with us but can't, will you let us know? Because we've had some technical issues with this setup, and we fixed our sound quality issue that we were having, I think. If y'all can hear us well. But if you're having an issue with the chat box today, please send us a message so we can have our team look into it and fix it. And I do want to thank our team. It looks like we don't have any questions today.
Yeah, it looks like we don't.
I guess we had an extra episode.
Woo!
Listen, I'm Warna Walters.
And I'm Matthew Walters.
And we're here to help you get the long-lasting and soul-satisfying love, not only that you desire, but you deserve it. You're worth loving. We are going to take a spring break. And so I want to let you know that we will not be back in 2 weeks. We'll be back in 4. We're going to take a spring break and stay on the schedule we set at the beginning of the year of every other week. And so we'll be back on March 28th. So it'll be a full month until we do another love intervention. We need a spring break. I don't know about you, but I'm excited for spring. And so we have some travel coming up. We're going to miss the next one, but so we won't be on our regular schedule. We will go back to every other week starting March 28th. And thank you for being here. Oh, Tina, you're so sweet. Said sound is great. Thank you for joining us. And we'll see you on March 28th, same time, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. We'll catch you soon.